I started a somewhat personal mission a year ago this month. See, I was always a fan of the Yakuza series ever since the original game dropped on the PS2 back in 05, I believe it was. But somewhere along the line after Yakuza 3 came out on the PS3, I kind of fell out of touch with the series all the way up until Yakuza 0 came out on PS4. And that was when the series got like a much needed shot in the arm and a lot of people started getting into the series. So, you know, obviously I picked it up, but I never got around to finishing it. And after that point, every game in the series started to collect dust in my collection. That is until they announced Yakuza Like a Dragon, and for some reason that woke something up inside of me because the game was featuring a brand new main character and ushering in a new era of the series, and at that point I had pretty much resolved to refuse to play this game before I had caught up on the rest of the series. So I began this aforementioned mission over on the Twitch channel, which I came to call Road of the Dragon, where I literally restarted from zero and played all the mainline Yakuza games from Yakuza 0 all the way through to Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. So the intention was to have all these games finished before Like a Dragon launched in November of 2020, so that I could be caught up on the series and therefore get the most out of my playthrough when the game dropped. And I did it. I streamed every single possible second of every day on the Twitch channel for over 2.5 months, and I managed to catch up and beat every single game along the way. I was literally that invested. But along the way, I was planning to make videos, plan out content for this channel, eventually do a review for Like a Dragon when I finished it, but I got lazy. And I got lazy because I spent over 3 months playing 20+ hour games, managing a full-time job, streaming on the Twitch channel, and trying to plot out content for this, and it just got to be too much, and I ended up doing none of the shit I wanted to do afterward. And then I waited so long that I lost all the VODs because I saved none of the videos, and my Twitch channel deletes the VODs after 60 days. I wonder why I'm not a bigger content creator yet, right? Now, Like a Dragon was released in November 2020 in the US for PS4, Xbox One, the Series X and S, and PC. And given that I had actually managed to get a PS5 at this point, I kept thinking, no PS5 port?
Why the fuck not?
So I bought it on PC, but I also eventually bought the PS4 version because of the promise of the free PS5 upgrade, and also this really pretty steelbook. It's so good. But with all that said about the way, how's the actual game? Well, we're gonna tackle that right now because without further ado, here is my review of Yakuza Like a Dragon. This new Yakuza story stars Ichiban Kasuga, a Yakuza who was born and raised in a soapland named Shangri-La, which, if you know, most of the Yakuza series has a lot of history. He was raised by the owner until the man died, leaving Ichiban a troubled youth roaming the streets of Kamurocho getting into fights, until one day he assaulted a Yakuza and got kidnapped and beaten as a result. In a dangerous play, he mentions the name Arakawa, referring to Masumi Arakawa, known as Arakawa the Assassin, who runs the Arakawa family of the Tojo clan. Say that 5 times fast. Arakawa has enough cred in the underground world that it gives his attackers pause. The intention being that if he could have bluffed his way out of this situation, he could have actually escaped. But calling his bluff, they call the Arakawa family and demand that if this kid actually has a connection to Arakawa, then he himself would need to show his face to save him, which despite him having absolutely no reason to, he does just that. He takes a good look at Ichiban while the Yakuza complain that they need retribution for how this kid beat down their fellow Yakuza, and Arakawa without hesitation says, well, how about a finger? Cuts off his finger and walks out with Ichiban in one fell swoop. Methinks this man is deserving of the reputation surrounding him. But before Ichiban can thank him, he gets struck down by Arakawa, who says he didn't do it for him but to protect his own reputation. Ichiban replies that in that case, why didn't he deny having any affiliation to him? Because he actually didn't. But then Arakawa calmly replies, why not indeed? Maybe I wanted to make an impression on a kid who knew my name. It's this moment in Ichiban's life where he swears his undying loyalty to Arakawa, and after many attempts to earn his respect over a long time, he gains acceptance into the Arakawa family. Fast forward to him in his mid-20s, Ichiban is a far cry from the punk who caused his now patriarch so much trouble in the past. He's a tough but empathetic man who, if he wasn't so passionate about his affiliation and if he didn't look the part, you'd be hard-pressed to believe he was your garden variety Yakuza. However, he is still low-ranking on the totem pole and faces much ridicule from his superiors such as his captain Joe Sawashiro and Arakawa's paralyzed son Masato, who Ichiban serves as a gopher for and apparently can get a hold of steroids that can make him walk again. That's a whole other story. The only one who shows him any warmth is patriarch Arakawa himself, and as such, Ichiban will do anything for him. And I literally mean anything, because after having learned sometime after New Year's Eve that Captain Sawashiro killed another Tojo clan Yakuza from another family, which would have caused a lot of trouble for the Arakawa family, accepts Arakawa's request for him to take the fall, which he does without flinching at all and having tears in his eyes, seeing this as an opportunity to save the man who saved him. And as such, Ichiban gets banished from the Tojo clan and is sentenced to 15 years in jail, which ends up getting extended to 18 after Ichiban one day loses his cool when some thugs who regularly harass him badmouth Arakawa, leading to him giving them such a beatdown that he ends up in solitary confinement. Thus, Ichiban spends almost 2 decades in prison, and even though he was promised a warm welcome upon release, he receives none. At first, it's explained that Yakuza can't conduct themselves in public as they used to because new laws and such. Without getting into more detail than I already am, Ichiban's stay in prison has caused him to miss out on pretty much all of the events of the series up to this point, and he's not been around so long that seeing things like vapes and smartphones confuse him. But in the midst of all this, he learns from a cop named Adachi that the Tojo clan is no more. Unfortunately, they were dismantled from within by none other than Arakawa himself, having betrayed them and becoming part of the Omi alliance, the Tojo clan's rivals, in the process. Imagine spending about 2/3 of your life in service to a man that ended up betraying everything he stood for and making your efforts meaningless in the process. I'm not sure how you'd feel on finding that out, but Ichiban refuses to accept any of this, and he goes to get a haircut after having grown it out in prison, which doesn't end up well but ends up giving him a signature look, and puts himself at peril to meet Arakawa again, even going so far as to beat up his former captain Sawashiro to sneak into a meeting he's having when at last he sees him face to face, but it doesn't go well. We then cut to Ichiban waking up in a pile of garbage, stitched up by a homeless man named Nanba who used to be a nurse in a faraway city from Kamurocho known as Isezaki Ijincho. With no idea how he got there and with no familiar faces anywhere, he's thrown into the wild, trying to gain his footing after everything that's happened, eventually earning the respect of the locals, gaining a place to stay, and building a team to tackle whatever challenges he may face. The journey hereafter is one that features themes of trust, acceptance, finding one's meaning in life, loyalty, love, and so much more. I took more time to dissect this story because this game is by far the longest Yakuza game yet. Where all of the Yakuza game stories alone have offered a 20+ hour experience, Like a Dragon offers 40 on story alone. Its opening section is longer than any other Yakuza game, with Ichiban's origins eating up the first 3 chapters of the game, and along the way it takes time to establish this as of yet unknown to the world character and gives you every opportunity to understand Ichiban, his strength of character, his naivete, his grit, and all of his innocent, goofy persona. For instance, they make a big note of the fact that he's a Dragon Quest fan and always dreamed of being a hero like in the games, despite how everyone around him finds that a silly but endearing prospect. This is my MC, folks, I'm telling you that right now. But the story isn't the only departure from the series' conventions. I think coming into it, the most fascinating and controversial decision for Like a Dragon was not only to switch the main character, but to switch the gameplay genre entirely. See, I wasn't aware of this at the time, but Like a Dragon's initial reveal trailer was released on April Fool's Day. They had fully intended to keep the game as a beat-em-up in line with the rest of the games, but surprisingly, the trailer was met with such praise that the decision was then made to follow through on this decision, despite the game apparently roughly being half done. That part is just mind-boggling to me. Like, can you imagine being halfway through a game and then dropping a joke trailer and coming back the next day like, hey, I bet they were pretty mad about that trailer, right? Wait till we tell them that wasn't. Wait, you mean they liked that? For real? This isn't like a Uno reverse card thing? All right, fuck it, let's do it. These absolute mad lads over at RGG Studios scrapped the entire game and started from scratch and gave us what, spoilers, became my favorite JRPG of 2020. So how does it play? Well, you ever hear South Park: The Stick of Truth? This game has a formula that is largely reminiscent of that game for me, with elements inspired by other JRPGs that come together to make this concoction that sounds too good to be true, yet it worked anyway. You have your standard turn-based battles where you navigate menus in real time to execute options. I don't need to go too far into it, you know how this works. Yet it all happens in real time, with characters feeling very much alive as you fight. Every character is in constant motion, spouting one-liners the whole way to position themselves for attacks. The South Park comparison for me comes in the part when using skills or defending, as additional inputs are often used to increase damage dealt to others while increasing defense against incoming attacks. There's also a little bit of Chrono Trigger in it, with there being multi-character skills and the clever positioning of attacks allowing for landing hits on multiple enemies at once. There's also a job system reminiscent of early Final Fantasies, and the jobs are given out at, where else, a job agency. This game is so goofy, I love it. The job system is every bit as deep as you'd be accustomed to, with all the characters being able to fill any role you need in any situation, and the resulting freedom of choice allowing for you to be able to proceed in any fashion you wish to get through the game. There's even summons. After Ichiban gets caught up to the 21st century and is given a smartphone, he gains access to an app called Poundmates. And no, it isn't an app for taking people to Pound Town, you perv. It's literally a system that allows you to Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, whichever you prefer, an ally into battle that will beat the shit out of someone for you or offer buff buffs in battle. A lot of the pound mate summons can be found in the game's many side quests, and I still haven't found all of them, but every new summon gives you one free use, and then they charge you money to summon them in subsequent uses. You can't spam them though because there's cooldowns in between uses. But now I want to bring attention to this. It seems that for a large portion of the game it felt kind of easy. I was playing on hard mode, and for a long while I just felt like I was steamrolling everything in my way. That said, without giving spoilers, there's something of an extreme difficulty curve where at the 11th hour the game seems to say, oh shit, we should really make some of these fights really challenging, and you'll find yourself about 20 levels under what is required at the time if you weren't grinding. Unfortunately, this came off as kind of padded because it didn't feel earned, and as I said, the story alone can run over 40 hours, so there's no need for what can feel like an artificial extension of the game. But the sheer volume of options you have along the way is a testament to the developers, because I have a problem with what I would like to call one-trick devs. What I mean by that is that I don't like when a developer clearly only has the ability to make one kind of game. I'm not saying that if a dev keeps putting out the same game but of a consistent quality that you're not allowed to enjoy it, but when they actually try something different and it doesn't work, I then start to see a pattern of complacency in that dev, and therefore I lose enjoyment in the games they produce. RGG Studios didn't do that because they not only chose to do this because fans seem to want it, although there is a small but vocal minority of people that bemoan the change, and to those people I say, you are weak. Fight me. But they managed to look at other series, take inspiration, and craft a game that not only delivered as part of a long-running series, but as one of the best turn-based RPGs that I've played in years. And it's also brought to life through its absolutely absurd attention to detail. Being the latest Yakuza game from RGG Studio, this game uses the beautiful Dragon engine and pushes it to heights never seen before. The engine was already a powerhouse in showcasing character designs, hair, textures, lighting, all that good shit. But in Like a Dragon, they deviated from the norm of absurd but somewhat styled and realism action that the series was known for and cranked the absurdity up to 20. And in a way, all of it serves as a means to accentuate Ichiban's character, because as a Dragon Quest fan with an overactive imagination, much of what we're seeing, from enemy designs to special effects and costumes, etc., is all coming from his perspective. He often comments on what we see, with another character often commenting, nah, that's just you fucking goofball, and at no point did I become bored of anything I was seeing. That's probably also because there's a side quest based on Pokemon that requires you to catalog all the enemy types called Sujimon in this game, and the hits keep on coming. The job system keeps the over-the-top animations up with new skills, the environments are as beautiful as you come to expect from RGG Studios games, and the voice work, oh, the voice work. As the other game from RGG Studio to tout a fully fleshed out English dub of the game with proper care for lip syncing, as I mentioned in the Judgment review, the performances on display are nothing short of amazing. Big props to Kaiji Von Ting for his turn as Ichiban, and Greg Chun, the voice of Yagami from Judgment, taking the role of Nanba. But there's effort and care all around these performances. It's both serious and silly in all the right places. And the music is great too. This game largely shies away from the series' usually rock heavy leanings and injects new life into the soundtracks with many tracks that have a bit of an EDM flavor attached. And for as many tracks that highlight epic moments, you'll also get shit like and everything in between is so full of energy that I can't get enough of it. It goes to show that when the developers offer equal if not greater passion to the fans in their own endeavors, you often end up with something special. This game was hype and it was emotional. It made me jump out of my chair with excitement, and at times it made me cry. And through it all, it endeared me to what is now one of my favorite characters of this generation. And knowing that Ichiban Kasuga and his ragtag group of friends will be the face of the series for a long time coming, I eagerly await the next entry of this series that recaptured my attention and my heart. This was a long time coming for me, and I wish I got to talk to you about this game sooner. I say that because I spent a long time holding off on reviewing this game because I kind of felt like I wasn't there yet, you know? But finally we got around to this, and I'm so glad you stuck around to the end of the video if you did, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to listen to my breakdown of one of my favorite games of the last generation. This is one of the best games I played in a long time, and it was a great way to cap off what was the most absolute dog water year of 2020. But with all that said, I'm gonna be working on the next video right away. You'll probably see it coming near the end of the month, and with all that out of the way, I hope you had a great time. Continue to have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.